Hello everyone, this is Riko Siempre. I am an IRL RN and Vtuber RN educator. So that means yes, I am a registered nurse. So, what we have for you today is my third episode of my podcast series, Virtual Vital Signs. Now, what is Virtual Vital Signs? It is a podcast designed to help bring and shed to light other people's health conditions, especially chronic health conditions and disabilities. We are in an age where it's really hard to connect, even with the hustle and bustle of online connectivity, instant gratification. So I want to take this platform and this opportunity in order to make sure everybody has a voice and to share their experiences. So I would like to introduce my guest, Sulphuros Samsara. I've met him on social media and he's expressed interest in joining the show, and I'm very happy to have him on board. Now, the thing is, Sulphuros himself doesn't necessarily live with the conditions that we're about to talk to today, because we have an interesting obstacle ahead of us. We're here to talk about his mother, who lived with disabilities and chronic illness. Not to say he doesn't has his own, but he really did want to talk about his mother. And of course, I was a little concerned on how we're going to approach this, because it's hard for someone to talk for someone else unless they know them that intimately. So, that being said, I wanted to enlist the help of one of my very, very special guests. It's probably someone you may know if you've known me for any point in time. She is very close to my heart, and she actually does share some of the conditions that Sulphuros Samsara's mother also shared. So I'll be showing her right now. So in any case, I will change it up to our guest, Sulphuros, and my very special guest. All right. Hello. Hi, Sulphuros.
Sulph is fine, by the way.
Sulph? Okay, Sulph it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, mind if you introduce yourself?
My name is Sulphuros Samsara. I stream on Twitch. Normally I'm in a more expansive form, but since I'm sharing the couch with someone else, I decided to put my wings away. But yeah, I am a variety streamer. I stream a lot of various things on my platform, basically whatever tickles my fancy. Currently, it's probably going to be Wilds for a while. But yeah, and while I do have my own chronic illness, they've been often talked to death in this Vtuber space a lot, usually autism, ADHD. And they're often a little bit more well known than the stuff I really wanted to bring to light, which was a lot of stuff my mom suffered from. I don't have much to say about myself besides I'm a giant nerd for lore and such, so.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Well, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Amica Siempre in the not flesh, but virtual flesh.
Mm-hmm.
I live. Have we actually said what the diagnosis yet is today?
No, I don't think so yet.
Okay, so I will wait for the grand reveal from one of you two. I live with the condition that we're going to be talking about, and I'm just kind of here to give the perspective of actually
Someone who has
feeling
it.
it. Whereas Sulph is going to go with the life impact, how it affects those around you.
All right, Sulph. You want to go ahead and
yeah, my mom suffered from my mom is the person we're going to be talking about today. My mom, who passed away 2 years ago from surprisingly unrelated medical conditions, suffered primarily. She suffered from a lot of physical disabilities, but primarily the main thing that was most often the problem was fibromyalgia, which the reason why it sounds so vague is because even if you break it down, it literally just means muscle pain, because when they first named the condition, that's all they knew it did. They didn't know what caused it, they didn't know what did it, and they're only still kind of learning about it. That's what at least from what I've gathered from what my mom said. My mom took a year of Latin, a year of Greek, so she speaks doctor. She speaks fluent doctor.
That would be accurate. Yes, they are still trying to figure it out.
It was, and what I'll be talking about again specifically is, like how Annika said, is that I will be talking about how her disability affected not only my growth as a person when it came to her interactions with me, but how I observed her strength in dealing with this basically crippling disorder. Combined with everything else she had, it was basically the final nail in the coffin that she couldn't really work anymore after it got bad enough. And she couldn't do much.
So, what is it about fibromyalgia that makes it so difficult to manage?
I'll let Annika take this one because and I'll say what my mom said afterwards.
Okay. So it is considered an invisible disability. It affects most aspects of your life, and it takes a really long time to even diagnose. So Sulph said that it translates to muscle pain, and that's mostly accurate. How they think it actually works now is basically think arthritis, but on the nerves. The nerves are constantly active and always send pain signals. And you have to go through this excruciatingly long process of trying to rule out other disease. So, for example, I personally have GI issues. My stomach bothers me. I spent my entire childhood having tubes shoved down my throat, trying to figure out why my stomach hurt. And they always came back negative. They could never find something out. At one point in time, I was on 4 times the stomach medication as my adult father, as a teenager. That's a problem. The medications themselves caused problems, but they still couldn't manage the stomach pain. I also have chronic migraines, which they want to link to the fibromyalgia because they can't find a reason for the migraines either. So you spend, on average, I think the statistic is 7 years trying to fight for a diagnosis. And that's assuming you're even trying to get one. If you've just given up because no one can find anything wrong with you, you just sit with it. It took me 25 years of pain that I can recall before it was taken seriously enough. And I'm 31. To give you an idea how this affects you.
That was around the age my mom got diagnosed. My mom, they kept on trying to hand her lupus. even after she got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, they kept on trying to hand her lupus. She kept on handing it back, as she phrased it herself. They really, really, really want to Occam's razor out fibromyalgia because it's just such a pain to medicate.
They didn't try to do lupus with me. At one point, they thought Lyme disease. And I did not live anywhere close to Lyme.
They tried to throw that at her too, post-Lyme. They tried to throw post-Lyme at her too.
It's insane. They will try everything other than admit you have pain.
So the docs did have an excuse with my mom because she was in Girl Scouts and she would go out into woods and areas, so she was very exposed. She could be very easily exposed to deer ticks. Although what the biggest surprise is though, with all of her physical disabilities, she was immune to poison ivy and oak. That was the one thing she had to worry about. But yeah, that's a bit off topic though.
So I just want to shout out the people in the audience so far. Thanks for stopping by, Mr. Spooky. Sheva, thank you.
Also, I like Coffee Cat's joke there.
Yeah, hi, Vajan. Hi, Celeste.
If only. Then I could blame produce.
It's sadly, it's a Y, not an I there.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a Lyme can't give you disease.
Unless you're allergic to limes,
but you can
a Lyme cannot give you a disease.
So, given your mom's experience with, hang on, let me fix that for you.
Yeah. Also, you're cutting out just a touch, Riko, for me.
Yeah. Hang on. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
A little bit closer.
Annika and I are sharing a mic, so it's a little bit.
Yep. The audio situation a little bit scuffed at the moment. Apologies.
I would just also say talk louder, babe, so it doesn't cut out.
Yeah, sure. I can talk loud.
I think you're getting basically noise filtered at that point.
It's fine. Any case, moving forward. So when it comes to your mom, what your mom experienced, can you tell us what what she shared with you when you were growing up?
So she specifically in terms of fibro, because she shared a lot of things with me about her various physical disabilities. One of which I actually did inherit, which was migraine with aura. But we'll probably throw that a little bit on the side. What she said with fibro is that when the pain gets to a certain level, not even like bad enough, but like in a certain general sense, like when it covers her enough, she gets into it. She says that she mentioned something called fibro fog, where since all of her neurons are firing at once, essentially, her brain doesn't have all the cycles needed to start processing thoughts and kind of filtering. So it'll feel like this big haze is over her thoughts. And she described it as like pushing through gale force winds to even think a coherent sentence. Sometimes, when it gets bad enough.
Yeah. Like, is it because of all the pain that she's experiencing through the fibro?
That's what she said, but I'll let Annika mention on that for specifics.
So the subjective experience is probably described different. I wouldn't say fighting through a gale, but yes, kind of that concept. Okay, first let me explain how I view pain in the first place. Most people you go to the doctor and they ask you on a scale of 1, no pain, 10, the worst pain you've ever felt, how bad is it? My life is pain. That scale doesn't work.
That's what she would say too. So a 4 for her, a 4 for my mom, would have been like a 9 or 10 for me, to give you an idea.
Yeah. So
like that scale does not work on the same. When you're working with someone with fibro, you have to understand that scale is going to be skewed down on the lower end in a general term.
Yeah. So how I grew up trying to do the pain scale, actually on recommendation of my father, 10 for me I am throwing up in the ER, actively wishing I was dead and or losing consciousness.
Yep. My mom says my mom says a 9 for her is get the Dilaudid.
Yeah, that's about where it is. Like, nothing else is going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that in mind, I live my life no better than a 2. That is the best I ever feel.
Yep. My mom was around the same way.
I do not ever start complaining about pain until about 5 or 6. And that's for what other people would probably be closer to their 8s.
Yeah.
I actively start wanting pain medication when I get to my 8. And sometimes that pain medication doesn't even do anything. It almost affects me more like I don't care that I'm in pain, and not so much as resolve the pain. I still feel it through the Dilaudid.
Yep.
So, but the with that in mind, the fog you were talking about, so much of your brain power is focused on just surviving that pain when it gets to that level. You literally cannot think. There's not enough brain power left. I would compare it to like your RAM. You have too many Chrome browser tabs open, and now your computer's shutting down.
Yep.
You can't Google anything else.
Yeah, it's slowing to a crawl at least.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it feels, is just your brain stops working. Because your body is...
All you can focus on is the pain. All you can focus on is the pain.
Yeah. And I separate that from brain fog, which is from a different source when you're not in pain, but you still can't think clearly.
Yep. Usually coming down from one of those 8s, one of your 8s or 9s.
Yeah. Usually when I'm coming down, I just want to sleep. I don't want to do anything.
That's another thing that my mom would say, is that she was often very fatigued because of that pain, because pain is tiring. Pain makes you tired.
Oh, yeah.
So people with fibromyalgia are often somewhat sedentary because of the fatigue that comes with that constant pain.
And then there's the frustration of all the doctors telling you, oh, just get up and exercise more.
Yeah.
It'll help. And you're like, how?
And the absolute worst thing is that that a lot of people with fibromyalgia end up getting overweight because of the sedentary statement, and then the doctors decide to blame your fibromyalgia getting worse on your weight, and it turns into a garbage loop, and you just kind of want to strangle the doc at that point.
It's a positive feedback. The worse you get, the worse you get.
Mm-hmm. The worse one side gets, the worse the other side gets. The worse that side gets, the worse the first side gets.
Mm-hmm. There's literally no way to win here.
Same with pain and depression, actually.
Yep.
It's a garbage loop.
That is a common comorbidity. People with fibro tend to have massive depressive disorders.
It's my mom actually would say this in specific when it came to that, where it's, I may have a proclivity. She said, this is one of her words, I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit. Mm-hmm. I may have a proclivity towards depression, but it's far exacerbated by the fact that there is not a waking moment I have where I am not in pain.
Yeah. I do not think my depression would be as severe if I did not have to spend so much physical and mental energy fighting my own body. If I had the energy to do normal tasks without pain, the depression might not be there.
Because it's almost like helplessness. You feel like you're caged in your own body. That's what my mom would say.
Yeah, it's a trap.
But my mom was a strong person, like incredibly strong. So when she eventually feel like caged like this, and since medicine started getting more expensive, and she had to like choose more carefully when to take it, she started seeking out alternative options in terms of like supporting this medication, not like using holistic medicine to support prescription medicine, which is one of the things I also learned how to do from that. She's actually went out to a few acupuncture clinics a few times and found a lot of success from that. Because one of the things that fibro does is it builds up toxins in those trigger points.
I can go into some of the holistic stuff too, but real quick, Riko, are you cool with the way it's going, or did you want to interject a question?
No, I mean, don't worry about it.
It's your show.
I know it is my show, but honestly, I don't mind the free flow too. You both are sharing a whole lot of what it means to live with fibromyalgia. You know,
Yeah.
I can only share so much in what I know as someone who works in the clinic, as someone who
You look on the outside.
yeah, I look on the outside, and that's the hard part. I mean, I can give you all what I know. Like, I know that fibromyalgia is an exacerbation of the nerves, and how the sensitivity can get all screwed up. Like, everything goes up to 11.
There's actually, I remember actually speaking on that. I remember that there was experimentation using Botox to calm fibromyalgia pain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the same reason why it's used for cosmetic surgery. Because essentially it is the nerves overfiring, so the Botox will actually calm that down.
Yep. Okay, so using the holistic and tying in Botox then, I have also done acupuncture. Subjectively, it didn't work so much for me, but I really hate needles. And so that was part of the issue, was the psychology.
Yeah.
I do find a lot of benefit from therapeutic massage, and this is not the frou-frou rub oil on your skin massage. They need to dig deep. If I do not feel like I left getting beat up, it wasn't deep enough.
Yeah, so there's actually a variant style of acupuncture called acupressure, where instead of using needles, they will instead use like their fingers or knuckles and push into those trigger points to flush out those toxins.
Yes, I've done that too.
Sometimes not as effective, and it's different style of getting rid of them.
Yeah, I personally prefer the massage, and then I will occasionally do cupping to get rid of some of that toxins to loosen up the muscle.
Yeah, so you basically heated cups on the skin, right?
Yes, they're heated cups or they're vacuum cups, one of the two.
And basically they promote blood flow.
Yeah, so the purpose
of flush out some of those toxins.
The purpose of cupping is to pull the superficial layer of skin away from the muscle so that more blood can flow through the muscle and heal. And the more blood flow you have, the more it also flushes out those toxins.
Yeah, because that's another thing that can exacerbate fibromyalgia, is that toxin buildup that happens when your muscles are constantly tense from that pain.
Exactly.
Lactic acid buildup, among other things.
It gets bad.
Yeah.
But for me, I find the massage the most therapeutic and the most accessible. It also depends on your area, what holistic things you can have access to. I do get Botox for my migraines, and it is the only thing that has overall kept them manageable. I've gone through probably 30 different medications prior to Botox, and it got to a point where the insurance company wouldn't give me anything else. They were like, Botox or nothing.
Yep, pretty much. It's like the insurance is like, all right, we've found that this worked. This is literally the cheapest for us to give you, so we're just gonna only give you that.
I will note, the Botox is not the only thing. I also have a monthly injection that I take to supplement the Botox, and I have an emergency medication when I get a breakthrough. Actually, this weekend, I've had to take 3 of my emergency meds, so I need to go pick up more.
Stress?
Not stress. interestingly enough, it wasn't even painful. Yesterday, I was driving home after class, and my vision just distorted beyond all belief.
Ma'am? Oh,
I could not see it.
Silent migraine or aura?
Both.
Ooh.
So I didn't have any significant pain. You know that feeling when you stare at a psychedelic poster too much, where it feels like your eyes vibrate?
So don't worry, Annika, I know what an aura feels like, because I have them myself. Sometimes the world will flip upside down, or it will look like I'm underwater, or it'll swim, or it'll just buzz. And then anywhere from 30 seconds to like a few minutes or even an hour later, I'll have like a massive amount of pain. But also I'll have sometimes oral hallucinations. I'll hear simple words, or even a very small conversation that comes from nowhere. Those are much rarer that I have them, but it's usually visual.
It just depends what area the migraine is being triggered in your brain.
But yeah, but the thing is, the auras are a double-edged sword, because first of all, I get an advance warning, and my migraines aren't so terrible that I need to like take hard medication for it. So I'll just have a very strong cup of coffee, which is a vasoconstrictor, because one of the reasons why migraines happen is because the blood vessels in your head dilate.
Mm-hmm.
So caffeine in a recent amount of time can at least weaken the pain.
Yes. I also overdo caffeine. That's a separate story.
That's understandable with someone with migraines, but also it's a double-edged sword, because from what I understand, if you have auras, you are a higher risk for stroke. It's not like a huge risk, but it's still a higher risk.
It's a fraction of a percent, but yes. I was mostly trying to describe like the psychedelic poster. Because a lot of the audience may not know what aura is.
Yeah, that is also true. I didn't know that,
So you also kind of explained it where like your vision flips, or it looks like you're underwater. Like there's all sorts of different versions.
Vibration. There's also the basically think of like the various like optical illusions.
Yeah, optical illusions is a good way of saying it. Like you can't trust your eye.
Sometimes you'll see spots. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that. It's not pleasant, because sometimes you think you just ingested something that you shouldn't have, and it's like, oh wait, no, that's an aura. Better get some coffee real quick.
Well, so for me, with this weekend, just to finish up the episode, or this migraine episode, I should say, it happened to me while I was driving.
Oh, that's not good. I would have pulled over immediately if I were you.
I pretty much did. I had to make a errand stop, and I was like maybe 5 minutes away when it started. So I got to the parking lot, I went in, got what I needed, and I very slowly took surface streets back home, because I did not trust myself to be on a freeway, and I didn't have my meds with me.
Yep.
I had to get home.
Smart move.
Otherwise, I was going to end up in the ER.
Yep. Or you would probably end up with your car wrapped around a tree.
Exactly. So I was very slow, very cautious.
Basically, if you were
I put my hazards on, like so that people knew to like give me birth.
Yeah, and that's quite smart. Even though,
I got home. I took my med. I hid in a dark room, because when your vision's messed up, light hurts.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Couple hours later, I did come out of the room and spent some time down in the office with Riko, but I still was not feeling well.
Yeah,
I took another of my pill, I forced myself to eat, and I went to bed early. I woke up this morning, I still have all the sensitivities. My vision is fine, but light hurts, sound hurts.
Light hurts, yep. You can't have it too loud, you can't have it too bright, it needs to be somewhat dark.
Yep.
My mom would have the same issues, and so do I too. It's not pleasant to. Trust me, like you guys. As much as I say, like I kind of want to be able to empathize, and sympathize, and not just one or the other, because the difference between empathy and sympathy is one is I feel sorry for that, but I've never experienced before, and and a more camaraderie style of experience.
Mm-hmm.
I've often said like, hey, that's my. My mom was very confused about a lot of the things like what I wanted to experience. It's like why would you want to experience this? No, I want to see. I want to be able to experience what it's like to be in your shoes. And like, you do not want to experience migraines.
No.
Trust me.
And I would say the same with
ones.
fibro. You do not want to actually experience fibro.
Yeah, no.
Like, I understand the wanting to empathize and sympathize, but you don't want it.
Thankfully, that tends to be a genetic disorder. I know it can
They're
be
still
induced
trying to figure some of that out, but it has a genetic factor.
Yes.
My mom has a less severe version.
Traumatic injuries. I know. Yeah, my mom had a far more severe version than I think you did, because she would be 90% of the time she would be bedbound. Yeah.
I am mostly functional, so she probably did have a more intense version. Yes. The thing that I find struggling, and I'm sure your mom found too, because it's invisible, it's hard for people to take you seriously.
Yep. They think you're malingering.
They think you're malingering. They think you just want to stay. Sorry.
Yeah, but in fact, my mom was so fucking tired of that phrase that it's since been banned in the house in terms of being used for people.
Yeah.
Like this house is not allowed to use malingering in referring to anyone here.
So for non-medical people, typically hospitals use the phrase malingering when someone is trying to delay discharge. Oh, I had a cut. You've already given treatment. But wait, what if it gets infected? Give me antibiotics. What if I broke a bone?
Yeah.
And you're trying to delay with no reason. They call it malingering. The problem with fibro is you're validly in pain, but they can't do anything, so they dismiss it.
Yeah. To give you an idea of the level of... Okay, sorry, Riko.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, to give you an idea of the level of severity that my mom had for fibro, they ended up giving her a full proper dose of Dilaudid, and she was fully lucid. She had no mental clarity issues. She was fully lucid.
Yeah.
She asked the docs what they gave her, because she said her pain was mostly okay. She was still in a decent amount of it, but she was clear. She's like, they said, oh, it's Dilaudid. Dilaudid? It was actually about the tone of voice she said when she said that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like she was actually surprised that she was in that much pain.
So
because she was barely cognizant when she was in the pain. She was actually brought to the ER because she was basically mumbling.
So for those who aren't aware what Dilaudid is, it is a synthesized opioid pain medication that is much more effective than regular morphine, to the point where we have to be very careful in places that where we do administer it to make sure, is this the proper dosing? Because one false move, we could be causing a lot of problems in terms of breathing, in terms of circulation. So yeah, it'll get rid of the pain, but at the same time, we want to make sure that the patient's still alive. You don't kill someone. Yeah, definitely. And the fact that your mom's able to take all that Dilaudid and still be where she was, or still be lucid, I mean, god damn.
She was completely lucid.
May I share the Dilaudid story?
Go on.
So about 2 years at this point, I started having rib pain. It has not gone away, by the way. Rib
pain is very close to the heart.
It was on my left side, lower ribs. So not near my heart, not near my liver or appendix, and it didn't really initially concern me because I always have pain.
So it's this is just a new place for it to localize.
Yeah, I ignored it. I complained to Riko for a couple days that this is really hurting. It's not feeling better. I can't get it under control. I think 3 or 4 days in, it got so severe, I had him take me to the ER. Not even urgent care, ER.
Just straight to the ER, yeah.
I couldn't breathe. I was in so much pain.
Because even if it's not near any vital organs, it's still near enough to the lungs that those muscles will seize up in response.
Yep.
And honestly, it was very scary because,
I think he was more freaked out than I was.
Yeah,
because I've been through it before.
I definitely was.
That generally happens to people who have loved ones who have fibro. They're the ones who are freaked out more because the people with fibro, they deal with it on a day-to-day basis. It's not really all that much to them in response.
I think this was the first time Riko had to take me to the ER for something like that. So it was his first round. And I can't breathe. And he, as a nurse, is like freaking out, trying to think of like anatomy, what could be going wrong, what's up.
Oh yeah, you know how I do. You know how I do.
I do know how you do. They did all the obligatory scans. Okay,
nothing's broken.
my spleen is fine, my liver's fine, everything's fine. My pain was not under control. They gave me Dilaudid. I personally do not like pain medications that severe because I do not like pain meds that severe because I don't like the fog it gives. But, much like you said, they gave me Dilaudid that time, and my brain actually cleared up because the pain was reduced enough that I could think. I was in so much pain, normally I would refuse Dilaudid. I don't like it. But I was in so much, I let them take it. But I actually took the Dilaudid. And it eased the pain enough, or at least my care of the pain, that I was then clear-headed enough to... I actually understood exactly what the doctors were telling me when they came in and said, okay, there's nothing wrong with internal organs, and it's probably just intercostal inflammation. Now, a normal person would not know what intercostal inflammation is. I do. And I understood, even on Dilaudid, and I was pissed. Basically, they just told me that the muscles in between my ribs are inflamed, and that's why it hurts. In what way does a tight muscle equal the response of Dilaudid?
Because and also like it's either they're clearly not telling you all that they found out, or they just or they jump to the strongest response because of an emergency interaction there, because they thought they saw, like, they were basically like, shit, we don't know what's going on. She's in lots of fucking pain, and we can see that we need to do fucking something. All right, just use this. Yeah. So it was either they weren't telling you the whole story, or they jumped to the biggest conclusion. Although clearly it was the right solution.
I will say they did handle the pain correctly. Now, understanding a little bit more on the nursing side how that goes, they 100% addressed my pain. I was not happy with the reason I was given for my pain. I did not feel that my ribs would be enough to cause that level. I was sure there had to be something with an internal organ.
Because you live at what our levels would be, like you live at like a 4 for like me or like Riko on a daily basis. That's your just baseline level.
Mm-hmm. And
so that doesn't seem as like ridiculous. That seems more ridiculous to you than it does to us.
Yeah, and on the nursing end, usually when they give you a pain medication, the doctor orders it as a sliding scale. So the nurse comes in and goes, oh, how bad is your pain? You say 3. Okay, you get a Tylenol. Oh, it's a 6. We might give you a Percocet. Oh, you're at 10. Push the Dilaudid.
Yep, 10 or 9, yeah.
Like
So
they give you medication based on your pain. My pain was bad enough. I got Dilaudid.
Yeah. My mom always has to. Whenever my mom whenever we moved to a new area, or went to a new doc for whatever reason, my mom would always preface, "Okay, I have fibromyalgia. You give me a sliding scale and bond with my honesty. Bump that up by 2 to 3 points, by default, in your own head."
I usually tell them 10 is I'm passed out.
Oh, so she actually kind of got it down to a little bit of science, because docs generally have like a specific like set line of like, okay, this is like, so each number means like a certain amount of neurons are firing at this point. But that kind of falls apart when someone's in pain like that. So my mom was like, okay, I got a general idea of like how my pain scale compares to yours. It compares to just the generic one. Bump up your numbers. When I give you a number, bump it up by like 2 to 3 or 4, like 2 to 4 around that. That's generally what that's gonna be.
Exactly.
So if I say I'm like at a 2 pain wise, consider it your 6.
Exactly. So it's just interesting when you have those situations, like with your mom getting the Dilaudid or me getting it. Usually that's such a strong pain medication, they're afraid of you stopping breathing because it relaxes you so much. Our response of becoming more lucid is not normal. We should not be responding to medication that way.
No.
But here we are.
But it's because your neurons are firing that fucking hard that an opioid of that strength actually makes it fire just less enough that it becomes manageable and controllable.
Exactly.
And that's where the misconception about fibromyalgia and trying to treat it and basically care for it comes into play, because unfortunately, you know, it's hard sometimes for providers to really consider that, hey, you know, this is what they're feeling, and you know, that's not something you can't deny, but at the same time it's still something that is very much a prevalent thought in healthcare. Some people would think it's an excuse for drug-seeking behavior, which
then you see these reactions.
Yeah, and it's not to say that
I've been accused of drug-seeking before.
Yeah.
I've also been called a hypochondriac.
Mm-hmm. Both of those things my mom has been called. My mom was the worst thing is, right, one of the doctors my mom worked with was convinced that my mom was just an opioid addict.
And that's part of the reason I refuse opioids. I don't want them thinking I'm there for that. I want care. Do not give me the drug because I don't want you making that assumption. I will fight it.
Yeah, my mom would basically take what she would consider preventative actions to prevent flare-ups of her things. So for example, we would have like in cupboards everywhere, in every bathroom, we would have a cupboard full of like tiger balm paste and patches and all that stuff. Which Tiger Balm is a paste with capsaicin in it, which works as something called a counter irritant.
It's stronger icy hot.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's basically, capsaicin is the same stuff that's in spicy peppers. In strong enough concentrations, this will actually affect the skin and give a warming sensation. And it acts as a counter irritant and basically confuses the nerves into stopping firing for at least a little bit, or at least stopping firing a little bit down. So it basically confuses them.
I will give a little tidbit that I learned in one of my classes. It's not that it stops them or slows it down. Your nerves can only conduct one electrical impulse at a time. It can either send pain, hot, cold, pressure, sharp, those kinds of things.
Yep.
One.
So basically, it's
override
basically giving it more stimulus, than it can send of the other one.
Pretty much.
So if you're in pain and you put something really hot or really cold on it, all of a sudden all you feel is cold.
Yep.
Or press really hard on it, which is yeah.
Yeah, human body's kind of weird that way.
There are plenty of ways to hack the human body.
Oh yeah. And you start learning it.
Yeah. I was gonna ask. You also mentioned in our pre-interview how your mom also had to live with sciatica. How did that come about?
Okay, so that was what she described as self-inflicted injuries. So my mom, for the longest time, even while working with fibromyalgia, by the way, this is the level of strength that she had in terms of like mental fortitude. She worked in Syracuse at a former place, this is former now, called, I believe, it was a developmental center, places for people where people were going to for mental disability. Things like so it was SDC, Syracuse Developmental Center. Don't think it exists anymore. But she was trying to restrain a patient that was thrashing about who had scoliosis and had a rod in her back.
Oh.
She was beginning to lose grip of the person, and all she could think about at that time was that metal rod hitting the metal bed frame that was below her. So she twisted her way to keep the person from getting injured, and all she used to describe was there was a line of fire that ran up from one of her legs all the way up her back. And she was frozen in that position and said to the person who was nearby her, take me to the hospital now.
Yep.
And as a result, she greatly injured her sciatic nerve, which is what is essentially sciatica, an injury to the sciatic nerve.
It's the main nerve that feeds into your leg. Without it, your leg doesn't work.
Yeah.
So she had basically she had problems with both legs for a long time because she injured the sciatic nerve right at the hip.
So I actually do have some experience with sciatica. As some of you may be aware,
real quick before you get into it, because this seems like a good transition point.
Yeah.
I unfortunately have to leave the stream. I have a prior obligation I gotta go take care of. But these two are welcome to continue, especially since we're now transitioning to sciatica, which Riko does experience and live with.
Yep.
So, hi Rex is gonna go bye-bye now.
It's okay, sweetie. Don't worry about it.
Before I leave, I have one fun thing I want to do. Sorry, I'm gonna throw out your thing for a second.
Uh-huh.
I have teeths.
Teeths. Oh, I know.
I'm very happy with my teeths.
Oh yeah, I'm also very happy with my other model's teeths too.
Alright, I gotta get going.
Alright, love you, sweetie.
Love you all. Have a great rest of the stream, okay? Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah.
Alright. So
now we're gonna just scoot over to the
I'll scoot you over. And there you go.
There we go. Thank you, sir.
No, not a problem. So, but yeah, so the thing with sciatica, it's an
injury.
Yeah, it is an injury, and not gonna lie, I've experienced it myself. It was by far the most painful, one of the most painful experiences, leading up to my back surgery.
I'm a little bit over your quarter there.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, but don't worry about it.
There we go.
But yeah, it definitely is something that that's people who had to deal with sciatica. If I can describe it, it's a shooting pain that goes down from your lower back all the way down your legs, and you try,
right?
Yeah, it's like fire. Everything it just burns, and That's the unfortunate part of it. It hurts, like it burns so much, like
and since it's so deep into the
Yeah.
tissue, you can't treat it with something like counter irritants, like for example,
Nope.
Tiger Balm or Icy Hot.
Nope, no, I've tried it all. And here's the thing, I didn't know that's abnormal back pain. I didn't know that's something you shouldn't be experiencing.
So you ended up injuring yourself to get your sciatica in a way that you didn't really perceive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Because I didn't know, I just, not to say that I didn't try to get it fixed. I mean, but unfortunately, when you go to your doctor and they think, oh, let's take an x-ray, nothing's wrong. What? And so, unfortunately, it all came to a head when I did have to go to the hospital for cauda equina syndrome, in which the sciatica became more than just that symptom, and it became not just pain going down the leg, but all throughout my back. And by God, it was absolutely intense to the point where
your body was I just felt like your entire nervous system was tired.
Oh yeah, and it went to the point where like it actually did cause me physical disability, and where I had to take a long time off of work and school just to recover. It was a hell of an experience, and I'm pretty sure your mother had to deal with having
This basically
move it.
every step would jump her pain up by a full point for her.
Mm. Oh, real quick. Hi, Cupid. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate you dropping in.
Basically every step for her would be another jolt of pain that she just tanked. She just was able to take it because she lived with it every single day. If she wanted to move, she had to deal with it.
Yeah.
She tried hydrotherapy for losing weight, which did help a little bit.
Yeah.
And she also, they found out that due to her being on, she also had asthma symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
Asthma symptoms. She had outright asthma. So yeah, because and also her parents smoked like chimneys until her dad died of supposedly smoking related issues. He had a heart attack. And it was basically everyone was thinking it was smoking, and that's what caused my grandma on my mom's side to quit at that point, because she was scared straight at that point.
Oh, wow.
But quit fully at least. But when she was living with her parents, she had to what she had to do in order to actually be able to breathe was to close her door in her room and stuff the seams with towels and stuff to be able to block out all the smoke.
Wow.
They smoked like chimneys.
That probably didn't help.
But yeah, but anyway, but to go on to that, they found out that due to her being on corticosteroids for her asthma, she developed adrenal insufficiency. So that caused more weight gain, because part of the adrenal system is producing hormones that regulate weight.
Yeah, so just to give a small anatomy and physiology lesson here. So with adrenal insufficiency, your body needs adrenaline in order to function. Not to say you don't normally use adrenaline in those short bursts like you normally do, say like in a
fight or flight response.
Yeah, fight or flight.
General purpose.
Generally, you happen to use it on the daily, even if you don't really think about it. And that's the thing, though, with adrenal insufficiency. All of those fight or flight, all those fight or flight reactions, anything that helps that puts the foot on the accelerator, is significantly slowed. It's significantly hampered. So you want to get up off the couch or something like that if you're in danger, or if you need to get running. You just can't with adrenal insufficiency.
And but the thing is, it's also beyond that. So adrenaline does more than just trigger the fight or flight response. It's a general purpose hormone.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's more related to the adrenal gland, which produces more than just adrenaline.
Yeah, it definitely.
My mom, nearing the event that took her life,
Mm-hmm.
They eventually got her on a proper steroidal dose that actually had her starting shedding weight.
Mm-hmm.
And she was starting to feel a lot better because she had the ability to start moving around again, especially in hydrotherapy.
Yeah.
Because she could start moving and start getting that. She was seeing great improvements, and she was ecstatic because she was starting to finally get a control and getting a hold of her life.
Yeah.
But there's the whole thing about that, and but one of the things I also want to talk about is how to transition. Yeah, hydrotherapy is in fact a godsend. Thank you for the chime in, Annika. One of the things I wanted to transition to, it's hard to transition to, but like one of the things I really wanted to get at with this was how the pain not only affected her behavior towards the family and thus everyone around her, and thus my experience of her, but also me seeing her pain and her going through all the suffering, yet continuing to be this wonderful mother, is something that I wanted to talk about as well. Because some days when her pain was real bad, she was a nightmare. A nightmare. She would snap, she would bite in terms of words. She would get aggressive. I don't blame her for this, but I have an issue with having my door closed because 90% of the time when my mom was in one of those phases and I did something even remotely wrong, she would send and have me close the door and lock it. Because that's how she was able to fucking live, essentially, when I was being temperamental or even slightly temperamental. I understand why she did it, but I still have those issues of I don't like having my door closed at all. It makes me feel like I've been imprisoned. So in order for my privacy, I have a curtain on my door instead. But that I don't blame her for that, because she needed that level of division from me, because otherwise I probably would have sent her to an early grave earlier than she already got.
Would you say those experiences that your mom went through, would you say that it affected her ability to be a proper mother to you, or did she ever feel that way?
No, I would say no, because whenever she wasn't, so the thing is, even when she was in those states, after she came out of them, she would immediately apologize and even do something to make up for it, and try to she would also admit, say, I can't promise that I won't do that again, but I will do my best to try and at least make it right if I do. And she always would, because the thing is she learned very early on, because she would inevitably end up breaking at least one of them. So instead she would say, we'll try to do this, we'll try to do that, we'll try to work on this. And it also led me to believe that promises aren't really good unless you know you can make good on them.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I learned a lot of how she was able to be so strong from watching her do these things. And it also ties back to the incident that gave her sciatica. It's she was endlessly selfless. Despite the fact that she was in crippling pain 90% of the time, she never thought of herself. When well before she died, she outright said, when I pass away, cremate my remains, scatter them to the winds, and have a party, because I'm not in pain anymore.
Yeah.
And you don't need to hold that grief. We did
No, go ahead.
when we did cremate her remains. We scattered most of them, but we did. But one of the things that she did let us do in her end is a part of them were pressed into a small flower cake. So when we planted those, a few flowers grew up from her remains.
Oh. Did your mom share how she felt a lot when you were growing up, of how she felt with everything going on?
She would let herself be known. She was one of the people who I got the expression. I got the opinion of on the expression of "Don't rock the boat." My opinion on the expression of "Don't rock the boat" is people tell you that not because they're concerned that you'll fall off the boat, but that they're afraid that they'll be knocked off.
Yeah.
They don't want you to rock the boat because they don't want their shit being shown. Basically, their shit stinks, so they don't want you to make a big stink about it. She was not one to mince words.
How has that affected your relationships with her relationships with your other family members growing up?
She was very matter of fact, and that probably helped me an awful lot with my own behavior. I probably would have ended up a much worse person if she was not so matter of fact. Because full disclosure, I'm autistic, so sometimes I don't get certain social cues. I need to be told directly, like, this is what's going on, this is what you're doing wrong.
Yeah.
I need to be told that directly.
Yeah.
Like, and not to mince words about it. Like, even softening the blow can sometimes make me not feel that it's a not big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
But that level of, like, not mincing words probably helped me a lot with, like, understanding, like, situations that I need to be clear about. My mom taught me a lot of things, even, like, not only directly, but, like, not only just directly, but also indirectly, like, the ability to, like, stay strong despite crushing things. Like, for example, she was through some pretty foul presidents. Back when she was real young, before she had me, when she was still with my dad, I forget which president it was, but she instead, in order for her own process, instead of singing our national anthem, she would sing Canada's. She was living during the, when she was doing the fucking nuke drill, she made a snide remark to the teachers saying, you know, this is only good for kissing our ass bye, yeah? Like, in those words too, like, she actually used the term asses. When the teachers had a few words with their parents, her dad, who was in the army and was also in the know about this sort of thing, he said to her, you know, you're right, but you could have said this a little bit better. Like, he understood, like, yeah, you had a point, but you didn't have to cuss about it. She was a firebrand in half.
Even under her worst days?
Even on her worst days, she was a firebrand. It was one of the few things that I took great solace in. She still had that sense of humor, even while.
How much do you think? How do you think she would be if she knew what things were happening, how things are right now?
She'd be right. She'd be right. She would say fuck it to her own disabilities and be out there protesting streets right the fuck now.
Oh wow!
Like, actually, because like in the current political climate, no, she would be out there protesting. Like, it got this bad, she would be out there.
Wow. Would you say that? Would you say that she's a huge an inspiration for you and your family?
100%. 100%. to give you an idea of how much of a goat in the Girl Scouts, she had to have 3 badge lanyards.
What?
Yeah, she had that many badges. It turned into a contest with someone at one of the other people.
A decorated Girl Scout at that too. Jeez.
Pretty much. Like she had 3 sashes.
I honestly
filled with badges.
I honestly can't imagine how you're supposed to wear that now. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, she had a little bit of a contest with like she had like, and she was the one who ended up winning that. She had a few of them that were like. A few that have yet to be like she has broken a few records on those. Like she was like a few record breakers.
Holy!
Like she's not in like the Guinness Book. Like she doesn't have like the most now. She's been beaten so far. But
yeah.
she had a competitive streak with them. So
I bet.
So, like and we another thing to note about that, like we went to a few cons. If you have you heard of like a few of the attempts of cons of like something called Camp Nerdland?
I wouldn't say so.
They were a pair of cons. They only happened twice because of some logistics issues. One of which is going to be relevant to my life.
Uh-huh.
Where essentially I went on both. Camp Nerdly 0 and Camp Nerdly 1. We went out actually to a campground. It was basically a camping adventure for people who are of the nerd proclivity. Things like tabletop, tech, podcast, stuff like that. The first one was an absolute disaster because we went in winter with a bunch of nerds.
Yeah.
Do you think any of them knew how to chop firewood? Do you think any of them knew how to stoke a fire? Do you think any of them knew how to cook a campfire meal?
Oh my God! My
mom was being camp mom throughout the entire thing, using all of her Girl Scouts knowledge. It's like, okay, you have strength, go chop wood. I'll go tend to the fucking house. You go get fucking earth bedding so that people can actually be warm when they go to sleep. She was basically being logistics there.
That's actually really funny. All the more reason why I will have to remind Chad and anybody in the audience, remember to touch grass. That's very important. You never know when you're gonna need it, even in our increasingly technological world.
And she basically set the kids with all the bajillion joules of energy to go and lug the chopped firewood into the cabin. Fire and prepare certain campfire meals, because she would prepare the campfire meals, and I swear there's some of the best meals my mom ever cooked. Like there's something that the fucking open flame of that kind adds to the flavor of the dish that is completely different. My mom was very the kind of person to be like, okay, shit's falling apart, all right, I'm going to be administrative control. You do this stuff. You do that stuff. We're gonna fucking get this shit working, and we're gonna fucking live, okay? Well, Camp Nerdly 1 was a little bit better because that was a little bit better, but still, we were able to have outdoor, and it was not nearly such a survival tragedy, but there were still some issues, like some people didn't bring DEET. Which, that was a nightmare. People had to fucking, you didn't bring DEET, all right, hold on, you fucking spray them down. Because, in a campground like that, we were in around Virginia. Lyme disease. It was actually gonna be a big problem. But
So, Sulph, I gotta ask. You shared your mom's perspective with dealing with healthcare providers. How is your experience now? Like now that you've had to share that, because I ask this every show because it's something I feel like we we as providers always need to make sure that, we're always trying to improve on, but sometimes things slip through the cracks. So what can you tell me?
I have actually had to deal with healthcare providers myself, but not in the physical sense. I have to deal with mental health care providers because I have autism, ADHD, and some social anxiety in various settings. So I've been run through the gamut of pretty much every single type of psychiatry.
Yeah.
The first one that I can remember was, as my mom described it, he was so old he farted dust and probably knew Freud personally.
Damn.
He blamed everything that was wrong with me on my mom and prescribed me a full half milligram of Xanax at 8.
Why would he blame everything on your mom?
Because Freudian psychology blames everything about just general thing because it's just how it worked back when Union basically took his idea and just untangled it from the whole Oedipal thing, because yes, he was the guy who started the Oedipus. But yeah, I was quickly taken away from him. He tapered the half milligram of Xanax at a body weight of body mass of like fucking maybe 100 pounds max. So you understand that a half milligram per 100 pounds is probably insane.
Oh yeah, you don't need to tell me about medications.
But yeah, and the next one I found was amazing. I've already talked to you briefly about him. I'm not going to mention his name.
Yeah,
you did say about that. But he was amazing. I was on him until I turned 18 because eventually at that point I had to phase out him because first of all, he was also not only being a psychiatrist, kids and including me, but he was also his family's doctor, and as a result of all that stress, he actually ended up having a heart attack of it. He lived it, but he was like, all right, nope, that's my sign. I got to bow out of this. This is too much stress. And so he just resigned himself to just being the family doctor and retired properly from his practice.
Right.
Moved on from a few doctors from there. Eventually, I moved to just therapy, instead of psychiatrist, just a psychologist.
Yeah.
I think the one that doesn't really like work with prescriptions and all that, like doesn't heavily work with prescriptions.
Yeah.
And diagnoses, diagnosis. But yeah, anyway, now I'm basically working with therapists here to the point where I'm working on managing my symptoms with mindfulness and willpower instead, which is working actually surprisingly well. I found solutions for my anxiety to be able to kind of work and make things work in this sense with Vtubing. It doesn't feel like a job setting, so it doesn't trigger my social anxiety, and I get to be the because when I'm in a job setting like this, it feels like. Have you ever had the feeling like you have eyes in the back of your neck?
I won't say
like you're being watched like a hawk.
Sometimes, yeah, I would think.
When I'm in a job setting, it feels like that constantly, and it doesn't just feel like one pair of eyes. It feels like everybody's there. Everybody there is watching me and is judging. That's the kind of level of anxiety. It also ties in a little bit to what I assume is my paranoia. I do have a small amount of paranoia. And my mom actually was one of the people who taught me how to deal with that too.
Yeah.
Which is first time it's coincidence, second time it's coincidence, third time it's enemy action, because you need three instances to develop a pattern. Because one happens. 2 is it suggests a pattern. 3 is a pattern.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I know it's, and so it just kind of, it does. It is unfortunate that you did have those negative. Those negative interactions.
I can describe what medications I've been on too, because I'm no longer on. So the first medication I was Adderall XR, that was not really working because my body, so my metabolism was fast. I was chewing through the first one of the earlier versions of Adderall XR. I was actually chewing through it real fast. My body was going through it real fast. My metabolism is naturally high. As a result, my body temperature is actually a little high too.
Yeah.
I've scared some doctors into thinking that I have a fever all the time. But to go on, after that, they were thinking I was on bipolar. I had bipolar disorder because autism is often seen as bipolar.
I've heard of that.
It's often seen as bipolar disorder. Sorry, I need to talk up a little bit. But yeah, it's bipolar disorder. So autism is seen as that. So they put me on lithium bicarbonate.
Mm-hmm.
But as they started amping up the dose, as it didn't affect me and it kept on not affecting me. Eventually, I hit the max dose. I had to have like almost bi-monthly blood tests to make sure my liver was functioning.
Yeah.
And eventually, I stopped tapering off that because it wasn't doing anything for me and there was no real behavior change. But one of the other medications that was notable, and this is going to be important for actually a weird physiological trait I have as a result of it, I was on risperidone. One of the side effects that can happen with risperidone is gynecomastia. I, in fact, did develop a small amount of breast tissue, and it got to the point where I actually started developing glandular tissue as well as producing some of the fluid.
Whoa.
My mom, when she saw that, when I mentioned this to her offhandedly, she kind of flipped out. She kind of flipped out because she thought it was actually breast cancer. Because men can get it too, guys. Guys can get it too. Guys
can get it too, chat.
It's
rare, but it can happen.
It's rarer, but yeah. I was one of the few people. I was one of the few guys who got a mammogram. They're like, nope, it's not breast cancer. It's glandular tissue. He has gynecomastia. It's like they started pinning it down. It's like, okay, it's risperidone. Is it really helping you enough that we need to keep you on? It's like, no, it's not. Take it off. I actually still retain some of the mass, and I still have some of the glands.
Holy moly!
They're not like really pronounced or anything. Basically, I have the very, 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 very small list of double A cups.
Wow.
Very small.
Do you think that it could have been avoided if your providers were more attentive to you?
No, because again, risperidone was one of the gold standards for a long time for treating as one of the mood stabilizers. It was one of the gold standards to especially with a supplemental lithium bicarbonate, because lithium was almost always used as. And another notable medication I was on earlier that I was actually ripped off of because it was that bad, Seroquel XR. If you haven't heard about that one, you might have heard that Seroquel XR was black boxed for children.
Wait, they gave it to you as a kid?
When I was one of the cases that caused it to be black boxed.
What?
Because this happened a few times where I would be going down the stairs and suddenly absentia seizure, my muscles stopped. And I fell down a flight of stairs.
Oh wow.
So I got back up, kind of dusted myself off. That was fucking painful. I kind of handle it. I'm a kid, I'm tearing up. So then I go down to the basement because I'm going down to get. Happens again.
Holy.
And so I was one of the cases that caused it to be black boxed for children. Because that was 2 absentia seizures in a row.
Wow.
For chat's sake, absentia seizures are a type of seizure that are different from grand mal, which are what are commonly seen in media as seizures, where you're just spazzing out everywhere. Absentia is when your muscles just stop. They don't move at all. They just kind of give up.
Yeah, you become flaccid, if I remember correctly.
Yep, you go slack.
Mm-hmm.
That's what caused me to fall, but I was able to recover rather quickly, so instead I just balled up so I didn't get hurt by the falling on the stairs.
Have you experienced any of those episodes since then?
Nope. It was purely because once I was ripped off it, they actually ripped me off it. They didn't titrate me off. They took me off it, and it was gone.
Just immediately, huh?
Never happened again.
Wow.
And yeah, I was one of the reasons why Seroquel XR was Black Mom.
Huh. I kind of want to see the manufacturer notes now that you mention it.
Yeah, it is not permitted for, I believe, it's not severely not recommended for children under the age of, I believe, 16 and under. 16 and under, it's not allowed. It's basically, you have to have a very, very damn good reason to be able to prescribe.
Damn good reason to be on it.
Yeah, you have to. Basically nothing else can work.
Now, I know you've had some difficulties with your care, but in terms of your mother's care, would you say that it's like when she was still alive? Would you say it was sufficient? Would you say that we could have done better? She would probably say it was as sufficient as it could be. Because she had fully admitted there was a limit for the amount of care that doctors could give her due to the complexity and nature of her conditions. Because we talked about fibromyalgia, sciatica, migraines. That's not to mention her other physiological problems. Yeah.
Her kneecaps, which she described as a bad pitch, high and outside, misplaced kneecaps. She shredded her knee. She shredded her knee when she was helping recycling by spilling and falling on shards of glass. She damaged the growth plates in her legs at one point from an injury. I forget what it was. Since why she was much shorter than the rest of her brothers, who were much taller and around my height. And not to mention that she injured her ACL as well. All of these, the vast majority of these injuries were in service of something else, of something greater than her.
Well, I think as much as your mother was selfless, and don't get me wrong, like props to her. There's something that I also want to make sure you come out of this too, Sulph, is that you understand that you need to take care of yourself before you take care of anyone else.
That's one of the main things I learned when watching my mom, is that a certain amount of selfishness is needed. You need to be able to take some time to say, hey, this is for me. This is my treat. This is for my comfort and pleasure. Would you say that your mom, like, my mom did any of that for herself? My mom did encourage this in me, and she fully admitted that she was probably a little bit too selfless. But there were times where she would say, "All right, this is me time. This is me time. This is time for me." Yeah. But she gave her all for me and my sibling. She also described herself. She also described parenthood as the job of a parent is to make themselves obsolete.
Can you explain that?
Parents are supposed to teach their children how to be self-sufficient so that they don't have to be the sufficiency for their children.
Yeah.
They're supposed to make themselves obsolete by teaching the children how to be able to do all the things that they do for them.
Yeah.
That's why my mom would phrase it that way. And she did her best, she absolute best to be able to do that. And I hope that when she passed that she believed that she did it.
Well, what do you believe, Sulph?
I'm getting there. and I know that I will get there.
You're on your way there?
I'm on my way there at the very least. Part of this streaming thing is to be able to get to there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of the few comforts that my mom always had faith in.
That you'll get there one day.
That I'll get there.
So is that your long-term plan?
My long-term plan, yes, is self-sufficient. I do, in fact, right now live with my dad. And my family in general, and the remainders of my family, my dad and my sibling. Things are rough, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted striking out on my own. One of the things I was figuring is that since I have such great camaraderie with a few of the people I've met online and actually got to meet IRL, I was thinking like, okay, maybe we could probably set up like a roommate sort of thing where we work together to like pay for a house that's in an area that we just living together and stuff like that.
Hey, there you go. I mean, everybody wants to get.
I will say, capitalism cannot really exploit a household that has more than 2 adults living under the same roof.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get the situation.
You can delegate at that point far better than just 2 adults or 1 adult.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you're thinking about that. And I'm pretty sure your mom would be proud of you. I mean, if your mom were alive today, what do you think she would say to you?
Hard to say, because she'd probably say a lot of things. Probably say that she's proud of me. Probably say that she probably push me to keep on going further. Probably push me to keep on doing what I'm doing and keep on independence in the ways that I know.
Now, do you think you'd be making her proud with where you are right now?
I think I would.
I'm glad, man.
Because the thing is, she also lived alongside one of the axioms that I do, which is pick a job that you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Well,
that's why I want to be a streamer.
So don't get me wrong. You know, I don't mind that axiom. It's just sometimes a job can just be a job.
Sometimes a job can be a job. Yes. Sometimes your job can be just a way to make ends meet. But if you truly love your job, truly love it, it doesn't feel like work. I think you kind of understand that, don't you?
Kind of, sort of.
Some days it feels like work to you.
Oh yeah. No, I mean.
But some days it just feels like fun, doesn't it?
I wouldn't say it's fun. At least from the perspective of being a nurse. But I think it gives me enough of a challenge where I can use the knowledge and skills. You apply yourself in a way where it doesn't feel like it feels less like work and more like a puzzle that needs to be solved. Yeah, kind of, sort of. And I think that's honestly part of I think why I also decided to do this whole thing about being a VTuber as a nurse too, because it's a good way to challenge myself while also, you know, trying to
pushing the bounds of what you know and what you're comfortable with, but in a way that you can kind of handle it. That's one of the reasons why I became a VTuber, is to kind of work with what many would consider a flaw, which is endless yapping, and turn it into a positive thing, a boon, a benefit. I can literally go on about a topic for literal hours. I have filled entire hours of stream just alone, just talking while playing a video.
I can see that.
and that works for being a streamer, being a VTuber. I can do that, and that turns that normally annoying trait of just this guy talks way too much into this guy talks about interesting stuff and actually talks about shit that I want to listen to on my time.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that, because
it's a case of when life gives you lemons, make lemons.
Well, I mean,
So instead,
Aperture Laboratories would say burn Life's house down with lemons.
So, that's another strategy entirely. But like, instead, when life handed me endless bushels of lemons, I just decided to open a lemonade stand. That's what I did. I opened up a stream where I'd be able to just talk and yap and just be able to play games I like and share games I like. I'm
glad, Sulph. I'm glad you found something that really really lets you use the talents you have.
It's also been a very big load off on my mental, because I'm able to get out, because a lot of the I have these thoughts and ideas, theory and ideas and plans in my head that I want to be able to voice, be able to make real.
Yeah.
And streaming allows me to do that. Because I can do these things like play a character. I can do these things like I can be this someone else that is like this other person, this that's in my head, that's as a character. It's kind of like falls into the RP thing, but like somewhat different. It's almost like acting, like theater. It's been really helpful for that, because I've been able to basically vent out the loud and quiet in my.
Yeah.
As I'll get excited about something like, oh, that's a really cool idea for a story. Oh, that's a really cool idea for a mechanic or something like that. It's like, and I'll be able to talk about it on stream, and then suddenly it's out of my head. I'm not bothering people who don't want to hear about it.
Which I'm kind of curious, actually. Did your mom ever know that you were a VTuber before she passed?
I was actually a VTuber. I was actually doing VTubing nearing the end of her. Basically, I started VTubing So my mom passed away in around, I think, March or February.
Okay.
So this will be upcoming around her passing.
Yeah.
But I was a VTuber the year, the December. Well, I started VTubing December before, and my mom was like, my mom was very open-minded. She was like, I don't quite get what you're doing, but if it makes you happy, I'm more than willing to help to encourage you to. Because, and also she also helped me coin this phrase, enlightened self-interest. Where she's like, I consider it enlightened self-interest because you get to spout your ideas and theories, be able to talk about the things you hyperfixate on. It doesn't have to be me. Because a lot of the time I would go to my mom, go to my dad, and they would be like, oh, busy, or like, I can't handle this right now, can you come back later? That some point later would be 3 weeks from now for mom. Yeah. But now I have this place to vent these thoughts out of my head. And my mom was like, I'm willing to encourage this because it keeps me more sane. She coined this term, enlightened self-interest. Enlightened self-interest is like, I'm going to encourage you to do this thing that makes you happy because it benefits me. It's one of the things. It's also one of the reasons give games to people. Sometimes enlightened self-interest. Not only do someone gets to have fun with this game that they really wanted or is interested, curious about, I get someone to play with, or I get someone to yap about this game.
Would your mom? I gotta ask. Would your mom, considering that VTubers can't beat the poor health allegations, and you know this, everybody should know this. Would your mom ever want to consider becoming a VTuber if she were still around?
She would not be. So one of the things her migraines was photo.
Oh.
So she could not handle games with too many. For example, if a gun if a shoot FPS had too many muzzle flares, she couldn't play it.
Oh wow.
She could handle lightning flashes, but she couldn't handle full auto muzzle flare, too big muzzle flare, or certain patterns would send her off, and she was also very, very particular in the games she wanted to play that don't really benefit from streaming.
Yeah.
Long form RPGs.
Right.
Mass Effect was one of the games she really liked playing. Dragon Age, long form RPGs that are well to stream.
Yeah.
And also she did not enjoy, like, when she booted up to play a video, she was doing it to oftentimes relieve a migraine. Like, she actually borrowed when she was playing Mass Effect, she heard a line that Ashley said to Caden, which is, Caden was complaining about his migraines because he has an L2 which is a plant for biotics.
Yeah, no, I remember Mass Effect.
Yeah.
I'm not that old.
So he was complaining about his migraines. Like, his eyes, like, and so Ashley said, blasting Geth really gets rid of my migraines. And so she realized that one of the causes of migraines was stress.
Uh-huh.
So when she would boot up a game, she would boot up Mass Effect on the easiest difficulty and just clean house on Geth. And her pain would be relieved because her stress would be relieved. It's vented. So some of her migraine would go away.
Because she got some of that stress relief?
Because some of that stress just got evaporated because she vented it out on a fucking bunch of enemies. So she used also video games as pain relief. Distract herself from the pain.
And I think that's something that a whole lot of people like don't underestimate about video games or anime or like anything that like helps distract. Sometimes you need a distraction. Annika chiming in, as long as I don't have positivity, I'm reading an anime for the reason. Yeah, distract yourself from the pain, then vent your stress by just forgetting about it. Yeah.
And for me, the way I vent my stress is I boot up a game on easy, probably usually an action RPG or something like that, and just go to town.
Yeah.
Beat 'em ups are also a popular thing when I go an easy vent stress. But there's also like, I do understand the joy of like, I do understand the rush you get from beating a difficult boss. That also is a massive stress relief.
No,
when I was playing Elden Ring.
Oh yeah.
So I played Elden. I actually got a little bit of a session, to be honest.
Yeah.
I got to like Journey 8, which is New Game plus 7.
What?
That's where the scaling stops, by the way. That's the hardest difficulty.
Man, I can't even.
And
I still need to go through my first playthrough, bro.
I managed to clear Journey 8. And that rush of beating it, that I surmounted this seemingly impossible mountain, and I did it. That rush of like, I did it.
Yeah.
So fucking good. Same reason why I play Toho. That's one of the things I haven't played on for a very long time. I actually play Bullet House. Danmaku game.
Yeah, no, I've heard of them. Don't. But
you've probably seen a few. Of the
I have.
Yeah, just dodge where it's just these big ass bullets.
Oh yeah. No, I have.
The trick is that the hitbox is deceptive. But anyway.
Oh yeah. It's something that I think we.
But it also lets me get to a flow.
Oh, thank you for following, Belle. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Sorry, one of my VTuber friends just dropped by. Thank you so much, Belle. But yeah, it's something that I think we underestimate from games, and that there's that feeling of catharsis that we can get from being able to surmount an impossible challenge and be able to at least live vicariously and experience vicariously those your victories, because I think we need those.
Yeah, and also there's also the benefit of flow state. You know what I mean by flow.
I know the flow states, man.
And then, it's a psychological.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
that, in case they don't know, basically, it's when you get into a flow state, you've basically tuned out the rest of reality, and you're just focused on the game. This can also do things like have you forget pain, have you forget like stress, stuff like that. You're just focused on that. It's often considered a type of meditation or hypnosis. It's self-induced.
I think if you ever watched that movie Soul?
No, actually.
Oh man, it's good. It's a Pixar joint. But yeah, they actually introduced something like that where if you're in that flow state where you actually are more in tune with the quote unquote universe, with the world and all that.
I would actually be so bold as to say that in Dragon Ball Super, Ultra Instinct is very, very, very close to the concept of a flow state. I would actually say that. Because when you're in a flow state, you're not really thinking about like what you're doing in the game. You're just acting.
I know.
You're letting your own fluid, your muscle memory.
Oh yeah, it just goes down by itself.
Yeah. You just kind of do the thing, and when you kind of sometimes when you snap out of the flow state or just kind of come out of it, once you like kind of come out of that flow state and you see that victory screen, it's like there's kind of like that coming out of it, and you don't really stress or
definitely. I totally get that.
Because your brain is basically tuned that out, and then once you come back to tuning into reality, your brain's like, we didn't do that. What were we holding on to that for? And just kind of just tosses it aside.
No, I've experienced that a couple times.
Yeah. A lot of the mental health, even sometimes physical health, is hacking. That's why placebo works. Yeah. Even to a little limited extent, because the brain can kind of cure the body if you know what you're doing. If you kind of trick it into thinking it. It's why placebo is always said better or worse, because placebo always does have something of an effect.
Yeah. No, it's I remember when I was recovering during my after my back injury, there was I definitely went into a lot more gaming because I needed to distract myself from it, from what I was experiencing.
If I may ask,
yes,
Riko, what was the event that actually caused that?
It was cumulative. So I was born with a bad back, which I didn't know until then. Two, there was a lot when you work as in healthcare for as long as I do. You're gonna experience some problems with the lower back, and
lots of sitting, lots of getting up, lots of moving around.
Yeah, and
patient.
Oh yeah, and that's part of the problem. So, and fortunately, that kind of led to, then it just became to the point where one day when I went to the gym and, I thought I did my weights like I usually do. Something kind of just, I wouldn't say like turned for the worse or like broke, where I thought, I could just sleep this off because it was a lot of pain. But next thing you know, oh God, I need to go to the hospital because,
sleep it off, and then you wake up in the morning, I can't move.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. That's the.
Yep. My mom had some days like where when my mom did her first leave the patch job. She's like, oh yeah, I can sleep. The doctor's like, sure. It's like I can sleep. And then she woke up the next morning. It's like, that knee is locked up. Why can't that knee move?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first day where she was like, okay, I'm gonna get serious about being actually paying attention to my body So whenever she would have a problem, she would like bring it up with her parents, bring it up with her doctor. Yeah, this happened. This is this and this and this would happen beforehand. When this happened, she would be meticulous about them.
Yeah.
She would write down like even like the diet she had that when it happened, and she'd like the events leading up. The events like I think like 30 minutes to an hour before the event happened. And thankfully, it actually helped her out a lot. One of the things that it really saved her there is that it saved her a lot with the sciatica specifically because she knew she was not sleeping that off.
Yeah.
But if she had had that first, she would be like, I'll handle it, I'll sleep it off, and I don't need it because fucking healthcare is expensive here.
You bet.
But not this time. She actually got the help, but it was not nearly so severe. Even though it was quite severe, it was not nearly so severe as she just tried to sleep it off. If she just tried to sleep it off, they were told, if she tried to sleep it off, the docs told her that they were glad that she named her because she tried to sleep that off or just try to, right? She would have been the equivalent of paralyzed from down that level.
Yeah.
She would not have been paralyzed from the waist down, but it would have been the equivalent. She would not have.
No, yeah, I see. I understand. Yeah. I did want to wrap up a little bit. We have been going for about 2 hours, so.
Yep. Again, nap session.
I know, but no, I'm glad you shared your mom's life and your mom's memory.
Yeah.
She
was around I think like 68 when she met. Specifically for chat, since I didn't mention the what happened. She had a meningioma. There was complicated blood vessel split.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to do an emergency stop. But while they were planning about what to do to solve that, she got fungal meningitis.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Fungal infections are some of the worst.
And at that point, pressure was building up in her brain, and they couldn't drain it fast enough, and they eventually just had to pull.
Yeah.
I've mostly been over it. Talking about it a few times here actually did get me choking up. Yet, but I'm mostly over it for now.
Well, I mean,
it's a case of like you don't really get over something.
Well,
like
you don't
that.
because what's grief but love unending? You know, you still love her. Grief is for the living.
Grief is for the living.
Yeah, grief is for the living.
The dead have no use for it.
Yeah, but I think that just shows how much you cared for her, and I'm very happy that you shared your mom's life with us. I know she probably would have. She's probably proud of you for being able to share your story and her story, and hopefully one day, this will reach someone out there. And we'll.
I know that she's probably off on her next life.
Yeah.
She's probably off on her own next life somehow, much happier than she.
Yeah, but right now I think you got to be happy too, Sulph, and thank you so much for.
I'm doing my best to be happy, at least for her.
Yeah, but I think she'd want you to be happy for you, man.
I'm doing that too. Don't worry.
Well, I want to thank everybody who stayed with us for this past stream. Thank you so much. I really do.
Yep.
Virtual vital signs, like I said, is something that is my baby, and it's something that I always want to provide a platform for anybody who's wants to talk about what they live with, and so that way they can share to the world that you're not alone. No one's alone. Even when someone like your mom is gone, she's still with you.
I live by the two deaths philosophy. The first death is when life signs cease. The second is when your name is spoken.
Well, good thing we talk about her now, so that way we can still remember her, right?
Yep.
Oh. Any case.
And I was glad to be able to talk with you, Anakin.
Yeah, and thank you, Sulph, for wanting to be on the show and and share everything. I'm really happy that, and I'm happy and I'm honored that you came on, and I just hope that I want what's best for you in the future, my friend.
Yes, and I wish the best for you too.
Thanks, man.
You and Annika both.
I appreciate it. If anybody ever wants to join the show, if you ever want to consider talking about what you're living with, feel free to reach out. You can find me on social media. You can find me Twitch, YouTube, the site formerly known as Twitter, Blue Sky. I got all my links in the bio and the podcast links. You can all find me there. But where can I find you, Sulph?
So you can find me. You'll find me at on Twitch at twitch.tv/Samsara, and you can find me on Bsky at sulph.vtuber. Those are and there's a really socials that I have. The media I have right now. I have since abandoned X because I do not support that guy.
I totally understand.
But deep here, that's not the point of this. But yeah, I also kind of like I just generally play variety games, as I said. I stream every other day, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and those are the days I tend to stream.
Okay.
I may do occasional breaks for that for collabs and such like that, but generally I'm trying to get into a rhythm with.
Yeah.
I only somewhat recently hit affiliate, like last year. Someone hit me with a follow.
Oh wow!
You probably saw that in the thing. That's my Yin Yang doing its thing. Someone hit me with a follow. So that is so I just do variety. I'm mainly going to be playing Monster Hunter Wilds because I have been obsessed.
Well,
hey.
Yeah.
That's a neat little summary. God damn, that is actually a really good summary there. So that by the way, that is not actually quite correct. It's more accurate to say that I saved death. My lore.
I'm pretty sure you can probably explain.
My lore is also linked in my lnk.bio. That is written out. It's written the whole thing. I barely needed to proofread it too. It is 40 plus pages long, so be warned about that. It is also a lot of basically it is unique in the case that it is bits and pieces of a bunch of media that I love crunched together into one story.
Well, I probably certainly beats my lore of it's literally just me as an anime guy. That's about it.
It has two Minecraft Minecraft Britannia. It has some Project Moon stuff. It has some of an anime I watched, Monster Girls Doctor. Which, yes, you should probably watch that too because it is actually kind of like they actually go into some medical terms and stuff too. It's great.
Well, I'll consider it. There's a lot I need to catch up with, but we do need to wrap up, Sulph.
Yep.
So I will raid on out to another friend of mine. But any case, everyone here in the audience, everyone in chat, thank you so much for catching us. Thank you for listening to Sulph's story and Sulph's mom's story. I hope whatever we share today, he'll be able to share with other people. And we'll continue, and I'll continue doing this so long as we can keep sharing our experiences, our lives, and build some connection. Because we all deserve that, don't we?
Yeah.
All right.
We are a social species.
All right. So In any case, thank you so much for coming by today, and I hope to see you all in the next episode of Virtual Vital Signs. All right?